I'm Amanda Subjin, Delaware Highlands Conservancy's Conservation Programs Manager. Today I'm going to take a walk on the Lemons Brook Farm Trail. It's about a mile loop on our 119-acre protected property in Sullivan County, New York. Come along, I'll show you some cool stuff I find and get you out of the house for a little while.
Hi everyone, I'm Kate Hausman of the Delaware Highlands Conservancy, and today I'm visiting the Conservancy's New York office in the town of Bethel. So this is a really interesting, cool piece of property because it is protected by a conservation easement. That means that for the rest of time this property is preserved, which protects our clean water, our clean air, and our wildlife habitat. So today specifically I'm going to be looking to see what kind of animals we can find and some signs of other animals that are maybe visiting our trail here at the New York office. So come along with me and let's see what we can find.
So here we are on the 119-acre Lemons Brook Farm property, and I'm showing you this map so you can get a kind of context of how big the property is and then how big the trail is that we are walking today. The house, the only house on the property currently, is located here along the road, and there's a big red barn. And we'll just walk along the edge of a big pasture here and then back down along this beautiful wetland complex. We've got a couple of really great evergreens on this property. 3 of them are right here, so I thought I'd take a second and show them to you. The first one is this nice soft looking tree. Has the needles, which if you saw the last video about white pine, we talked about it having 5 needles in groups. So pulling off one of these groups of 5. Oops. Got, let's see if we can find it. 5 needles in there. You look right by my finger. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is our eastern white pine. And they can grow to be quite massive. So we have lots of really tall white pines here. Another common tree in these woods is the spruce. Likely this is red. Could also be white, but I'm gonna say it's likely red. Now these aren't on the twig in groups. They come off the twig single, and they're a little bit spiky. So I refer to this as our spiky spruce. If I pluck one of these off and let the camera focus here, they're actually square in cross section. Can't really get it to focus, but oh, there we go. But I can roll them in my fingers. So it's square if you were to look at it straight on. Unlike its friend over here, the friendly fir, which has flat needles, still borne singly along the stem, but when I pull one of these off, not only does it smell like a Christmas tree, my favorite, but it's flat in cross section. No, I can't get it to zoom in. I can't roll it in my fingers. And look how much shinier the fur is. That is a balsam fir. Not very common here, but certainly a friendly sight in these woods. Break those needles off. Too bad we don't have smell-o-vision. You could smell how good that is. Balsam fir, spruce, and great big white pines.
So if you were able to watch my first video, you know that sometimes you can find animals by flipping over logs that are on the ground. So we're going to turn this over, we're going to keep our hand on the top of the log, and we're going to gently roll this log towards us to see if anything is underneath. And right there we can see we've got a centipede. And what else? I see we've got a little redback salamander over here, and another redback salamander over here. So this is quite a bountiful log. And these guys are going to spend most of their time under this log because number one, you can see that it stays nice and moist, which they need. Their skin has to stay kind of wet, but it also protects them from predators. So that was a good log. That was a really cool find.
They're easily identifiable tree by its bark. It is the black cherry, or Prunus serratina. Pretty gnarly shape these ones are. We're not in the best of soils to be growing nice big wide and straight black cherries like they can out in western Pennsylvania. But this you can tell is black cherry because it looks like, the way I learned it, is burnt potato chips. So if you look really close at the bark, you can see these little straight lines called lenticels. Some of them are in there. And it's all peely and flaky, kind of like burnt potato chips. So that is our black cherry, also native, without any leaves. But if it did have leaves, they would be oval in shape, toothed around the edges, and about 3 or so inches long. Here's another tree that I think you can easily identify in the field if you know these traits. See that peely bark? And it's a little bit goldish, silvery maybe. This is our native yellow birch. Likes to be where it's moist, but can also grow in more dry areas. And before I was trying to show you lenticels on the cherry bark. Well, here you can see these horizontal lines. Those are lenticels. And birch is very famous for having lenticels on its bark. Perhaps we'll come across some black birch in a bit and I can show you that. All of this stuff growing on here, it's nothing harmful. It's actually just some moss. There's quite a bit on this side too. So this is yellow birch. It has that very peely bark, and if we were able to get to its branches, which I cannot, and we broke those branches and scratch and sniff them, they would smell like wintergreen. So here's yellow birch. We'll probably get a good look at these because they're prone to silting in the woods, so let's hope we come across something like that around the bend. Okay, perfect. I can show you the difference between the yellow birch, which we've seen a couple times now with its kind of shaggy, peely, coppery bark. Remember those horizontal lenticels? And behind it is its cousin, if you will, the black birch. No silvery bark, no peely bark, but if you can see, those horizontal lenticels are still there. So when we look at them side by side, you can tell the yellow kind of has its peely, see it's starting to peel here, peely yellow bark, and the black birch behind it with just kind of a muted gray, but still full of those lenticels. And here's another one, kind of a beat up old tree, but you can see those horizontal lenticels still. Winter tree ID with birches. Black birch and yellow birch. In one of our recent videos, Kate was talking about the beech tree and how it likes to hold onto its leaves. This one has lost the majority of them, but there's still some little tan leaves hanging on there. And what I wanted to show you in comparison to the black cherry and the yellow birch that we were seeing, the beech is clearly different with its very smooth bark. When they get really big, they start to almost look like elephant legs. So this is a pretty clear trunk of the American beech tree, and you can also tell it by its very pointy buds. See if I can get this guy to focus. When I learned these in dendrology class in college, We were taught that they were cigar shaped. Can't really get that guy to zoom in. But they're really long and very pointy. That's how you can tell them apart from a birch. There we go. So that is the American beech bud before it leaves out, and in a few weeks these are going to be so beautiful, leafing out really bright chartreuse green in a fan shape. And when I said earlier that this is a very clear trunk, I'm referencing the fact that a lot of beech trees in our area are affected by beech bark disease, which leaves big black pock marks all over this clear, smooth bark. Something I'm not seeing here now. Beautiful tree.
When you're out in the woods and you're trying to observe animals, it can be frustrating sometimes because you don't always see them. Animals are naturally fearful of human beings, and they tend to have a lot better hearing than we do. So if they're able to hear you coming, they're most likely going to run away before you can see them. But they do leave behind evidence for us, and we're able to tell from that evidence what kind of animals are around. So it might be a little bit icky to think about, but here we have a pile of scat, which is the scientific word for poop. That might not seem very appealing to everyone here, but scat is actually a really important scientific tool. You can tell by the shape, the size, the texture, if there's presence of berries or presence of fur, what kind of animals you have in the area. So this here is scat left by a white-tailed deer.
Who do we think has been here? Certainly a large hole in the base of this was likely a red maple at one point. Now most of it's over there. But there's certainly a lot of red maples. So I'm thinking this is an old dead red maple. And that big hole, probably sign of a pileated woodpecker. Pretty rectangular. Now look at this one. They're certainly looking for bugs. Any sort of larvae, grubs, or insects that they can get their big long beak on. Yay, a sign of spring. Here is some dwarf ginseng growing along the trail. It's got some flowers just about coming out in there. This is very small leaves. Actually, one leaf contains all three of these leaflets. 1, 2, 3 leaves on that one. And here's a small other patch right next to it. Just coming out in what's probably going to turn into a nice big field of hay-scented fern. And there's one little hay-scented fiddlehead starting to come out there. And then this whole area will probably turn in to hay-scented fern. Now I know that because I'm seeing a lot of these tan sticks of fern fronds from last year, which are all matted down now. So in a couple weeks we'll come back to this spot again and we'll look and see how different it is.
So here's another pretty interesting find. If we get a little bit closer to this tree, you can see there's some tufts of fur here on the ground, as well as some small little bones. So it's hard to say exactly what happened here, if this is evidence of a predator or if this animal simply didn't make it through the winter. But judging by the long fur there, kind of the coarse look of it, I would guess that this is fur from a white-tailed deer. Those bones look pretty tiny though, so again, another mystery for us today out here in the woods.
Did you know you can tell how old a white pine tree is by the number of whorls of branches it has? Here is our example white pine. If you look closely, you can see 1, 2, 3, 4 whorls. So a whorl is where the branches come off of the stem. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I know that this is a white pine. It has very soft needles. And when I pull them off of a bundle in groups of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can remember white pine, white, W-H-I-T-E, 5 letters, 5 needles. It's our native eastern white pine, Pinus strobus. Are these baby pine trees, and then learning the lessons we have before this, we get up close, we'll know that this is a baby pine tree because it has 5 needles in a bundle attached to the stem. But these are actually something called running pine or lycopodium, and they don't get any taller than this. This one particular species, just some people call it princess pine, just gets to be that tall. So lycopodium, which looks a lot like a bunch of baby pine trees, than actual baby pine trees.
So here's another neat under the log find. If we get a little closer, you guys can see there's a slug under here. Now slugs don't have a great reputation. A lot of people think they're just disgusting and slimy, but they're a really important part of our environment. So not only do they provide food for other animals, but they are a decomposer. So they're going to live under a rotting log like this one here, and they're going to help to break down that natural material as part of the decomposition process. So even the animals that we maybe don't like as much or that we think are kind of gross still serve a really important part as part of our ecosystem. Thanks everyone for taking the time to come exploring with me today. I hope that you're able to get out and enjoy the woods near you.